Well, we'll segue right into what we're talking about. I'm going to be talking about the return of the Lord. That's what I do. I am an end-time pastor, preacher. More preacher than I am pastor, but that's okay. I'll do whatever the Lord tells me to do. But I prepare the way for the Lord. And for some reason, when I read prophetic books, probably in the last 2 years, it hasn't always been like this. But like when I read books that have been locked, or like maybe we've read, Revelation, it's very imagery, it's very picturesque. It's like, what in the world is he talking about? When you read Daniel, what is he talking about? What does this mean? I wasn't really, I guess a few years, maybe as a baby Christian, they were still locked to me. I really didn't understand them. Until a couple years, I started getting little bits and pieces of understanding in Revelation. When I would read it, light bulbs would go off. And I really believe it's because I've read the Bible so many times, cover to cover. I mean, my Bibles fall apart. I read them so much and I get new ones. And I feel as if me doing this, I'm able to catch things in these prophecies that match up to something I read in another book, right? Because it's in me. You know how I'm always saying eat the book to you guys? That basically just means consume it, eat it, gnaw on it, mill on it, like a cow eats cud. That's how you read the word. You just constantly read it. Whether you feel like you're getting anything or not, you read it, and you are. So that when you keep finding things and it keeps adding to your library inside your spirit, you get into these prophetic books and you're like, wait a second, things that people have struggled with for decades, I'm starting to get? Really? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So we either believe the Bible or we don't. That's qualification number one. We do. We'll check that box. We either read it or we don't. We're going to check that box because we read it. Yes? Yes. Yeah. We either look for him to come back or we don't. That is a big remnant qualification. And in this room, I know that we all do. We look for him to return. Titus says that is our hope. I just remind everybody that all the time. Like that's the total point of the Bible. He's coming, he came, and he's coming again. That's the whole book. So if we leave out he's coming again, then what are we doing, right? When I'm preaching, I've been saying this a lot. What are we doing to go into church? What are we doing? Doing all these works, all of the volunteer work, all of the doing the good deeds or whatever, if our focus is not on his return. That's where it should be, right? So we're going to check that box. Revelation 22:12, this was his command. So not only does the remnant wait for him to return, this was a command of Christ. He commanded us to look for his return. It was an order, okay? Revelation 22:12, the Lord says, as he's leaving, like these are his last words. He could have said anything, but these are his last words to us, to the disciples who he knew would record for the generations to come. He said, pay attention, says Jesus. I am coming soon, and my rewards are with me to give to each person according to what he has done. He has rewards. Come on. I am the Alpha, I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am the first and last, the beginning and the end. How blessed are those who wash their robes so that they have the right to eat from the tree of life and go through the gates into the city. Blessed are those who wash their robes. That's why I'm wearing white tonight. Purity, right? It doesn't mean that we have to be perfect, but I promise you, if Jesus was perfect, we can be. I'm now convinced of it. He was our prototype. He came down to show us how it's done. And if he can sacrifice his flesh to the point of being crucified, and he can heal the sick, raise the dead, and he says to us, you can do the same things I have done and more, we certainly can be white as snow. Why? He paid for it on Calvary, for number one. For number two, we are to follow in his footsteps. We die to our flesh daily. And the more we die to our flesh daily, the more these things are burned out of us. The closer we get to the all-consuming fire, which he is an all-consuming fire, that's what he is. He's fire. So the closer we get to him, these things that are impure come off. But fire's hot. So as you get to him, it doesn't feel very comfortable. But you keep getting closer, okay? So he says, pay attention.